Anyway, welcome. Welcome to the Unclassified Professional Senate Fall General Meeting. My name is Brett Morrill. I'm your president this academic year. So it's a pleasure to serve you. Glad we could be here. Hopefully I think we have a really great presentation set up for you today at this meeting. We have President Bardo giving an update on the university and what's going on here. The Senate also thought it would be a great idea to have Dr. John Tomlin come in and talk about what's going on with the Innovation Campus. And then following along with that, they also thought that we should invite Dr. King to come along and talk about what type of fundraising is happening for that, because there are some buildings that we're trying to raise funds for. Being a graduate of the School of Business, I know they're looking to put a new business building out there on the Innovation Campus, which is very exciting. And then we also thought to bring our Senior Vice President and Provost, Dr. Tony Vizzini, in to talk to us, because I was sitting in President Bardo's office having my monthly meeting with him here a month or two ago, and was talking about the realignment or reorganization that happened with academic affairs and student affairs, at which point he pointed out to me, I didn't quite understand it. And I got to thinking, well, if I don't understand it, there's probably other people that really didn't understand it, so why not give Dr. Vizzini an opportunity to, explain to us what's going on and how it's going to help us be more efficient. And then after that, I'll introduce our senators so you can put a face with all the names that are out there, and then give you a brief update of some of the things that we are working on for you in Senate. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to President Bardo.
Thank you. Oh gosh, thank you, and thanks to all of you for being here today and coming out. There's a lot going on the campus, as you can imagine, and I think as you know, and most of it because you all are out there making it happen, so thank you for that, and thank you for keeping us moving. Things are in reasonably good shape given the state's budget, and your guess is as good as mine as to what's going to happen with the budget, but we think we are in as okay a shape as we can be, given the situation that we have. We held back some funds this year because we could see collections coming in that didn't look like what we would want to see. And so we held back some money. So assuming that the cuts are within some reasonable level, whatever that means, we shouldn't have to affect your areas at all or very much. So that's our intent. So that while it didn't feel as good as it could have by having more money out that you could work with, when those cuts come, not having to have it pulled back actually feels a lot better. Even despite the budget situation, we have to continue to work on salaries. And so given the nature of where we are as a state, I'm going to request enough to allow us to have a 2% raise next year. It's not where I want us to be, but I want to keep us moving forward. And I feel as though that's at least a step. We're continuing the step of not going a year without a raise unless ordered to do so. So I feel like that we'll continue to make movement there and try to move our salaries to be more nationally competitive than they've been. This fall, I hear from the admissions office that they are getting inundated by campus visits, which is what you want. Campus visits really are the first time that a prospective student is committing some time and effort to becoming part of the campus. And as of about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think we were up about 45% year over year in the number of people who visited the campus. So they are paying attention to us, and it is a value that they are. So we're looking at another pretty good class next year. Our big concern is what are we going to do with them, because a lot of the growth is coming from out of area. And so the in area is about stable, the out of area is up quite a lot, and out of state is up quite a lot. So we're going to have to find places to put those folks, which is part of why we're looking at a second residence hall. And we're trying to make a decision now based on Charlie Birdsall is doing a survey for us on what housing interests current students have, so that we can get a sense of what percentage of them might be willing to stay on campus if they had a nice residence hall on campus in which to stay. That'll help us understand a little more about what size of hall to build and whether or not we can build one at all. So we're in that early stage now of looking at does it make financial sense to do that. If we do, it will be built on the Innovation Campus. There's one planned. If you look at the master plan, it'll be snaked in among the buildings so that it ties to the buildings that are the research buildings that are there. And it'll be a little different. As of right now, First blush estimates are we probably ought to be looking more at apartments than traditional residence halls. But that's a first blush, and we'll get all the data back and get it over to people in housing and make some sense of what we have. But as of right now, we're getting that information. Charlie has also been doing, I think most of you have been asked to answer what if there were facilities, what kinds of things would you be willing to use or have interest in using if they were located on campus or near campus. And Charlie sent me over a quick draft the other day of kind of the first cut at what people said, and I realized I have to change my retirement plans. I was planning on opening a laser tag operation, and apparently y'all don't want a laser tag operation. And apparently paintball just isn't that good as a second, so I don't know what I'm going to do when I actually retire. But I guess I have to think of something different, like not retiring. Anyway, so that's... but anyway, we are getting good information on that, and I think it's helpful to understand what is it that people might be willing to frequent. Not that this is the be-all and end-all in terms of handing this to a developer and saying, here's the things you should do, but saying this is what we're being told in preliminary looks, and obviously you're professionals, you ought to do a detailed market analysis, but you're professionals, and here's what people are telling us are the kind of ideas that are out there and that they have. So those are some of the really big things that we're working through right now. The bonds have been rated, by the way, for the new building, and they got AA+ rating. That is higher than we have had. It's a very good rating. The only one above it is AAA. So we feel good about the fact that the ratings are good, which means we'll get a good interest rate, and they will be sold before the end of the year so we can get moving. The news report, unfortunately, was not quite accurate about that we're scaling back a building because people aren't as interested. That's not true. We are scaling back a building because we built a lot of space in that was shell space, and we realized we were spending a lot of money for nothing. And so we asked them to scale back the building to something more immediately affordable on the basis that it frees up money that as these other things come online, we can participate rather than have to sit there with all our money tied up in one building. So understand the spin that was put on it is in no way correct. It is strictly a matter of saying that as we looked at what's happening and the kinds of interest we're getting, it made no sense to build a lot of empty space that may or may not be what people actually want at the end of the day. And so what we did was focus instead on the program space that we really need to get going, and we're moving with that. And we think we're going to have, over the next couple of weeks, some pretty good announcements coming on funding and other things that are pretty exciting. So I think it'll be, you'll get more of a sense of what we're doing and why and how it's working. But please, sometimes the media get it right, sometimes they don't. This is one they missed. And it is nothing to do with slowness. It is everything to do with that wasn't particularly a good use of $4 or $5 million. It can be put to better use other places. So that's where we are on those big issues. One more big issue, and then I will open up for any questions you might have. The murder and rape of the young woman over in the South Fairmount neighborhood. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. How one human being could do something like that to another human being is beyond me. It really is beyond me. But enough's enough. Enough's enough. This is our community. This is our neighborhood. This is our city. We have cast our lot with the people of Wichita and South Central Kansas. Everything that we have done since the founding of this university has been around serving the people of this area. My coming back here, all I've done is take that tradition and say it was our past, it is our future. We have to be part of the solution to see that these kinds of things don't continue to happen in our community. It is our community. So I have asked Ted Ayers to chair a task force that we are calling the Enough is Enough Task Force. And I mean it when I say enough is enough. I've asked faculty members, in fact, faculty members have already come forward and volunteered, who are specialists in community development, We have others who I know will come forward as soon as they are aware of it. And we are going to create a resource base to reach out to the community, to work with the South Fairmount community, with the city, with the non-governmental organizations, with the broader metropolitan area, to see if we can't help create a much better quality of life in this surrounding community than we have. We can't achieve our core mission if people are afraid to walk at night, if people are afraid to be on the campus or around the campus. And the fact is, we can't create the jobs we need, we can't create the quality of education or health care if we can't get the professionals who leave the city to stay. The only way we're going to do that, the only way we're going to make this work, is if Wichita reclaims the high quality of life it's always been known for. We have a key role to play. We're not the cavalry. We're not going to save anybody. We don't own this issue. We are partners in helping solve it. So we're going to put resources on the table in the form of personnel, in spaces and meetings and organizations and grant writing capacities to see if we can't help turn this so that the people of the community can have the lives to which we all aspire. This is who we have been. It is who we are. I was brought here first time in 1973 to work on these issues. The issues haven't gone away. But it's time that we as an institution recommit ourselves, that we are part of this community, and that we can be part of the solution to making sure that things work better, and that we can create real partnerships with the people who surround us. And I'm talking here not just about the people in South Fairmount, though that's where we'll start, but the 10 or 15 or 20 counties in south central Kansas. This is who we are. These are the people that we are primarily here to serve. And so we're going to make sure that our mission works in the way that it is supposed to work. And we're going to reach out as far as we can, for as long as it takes, to try to turn this situation into something more positive that can help change lives in a way that we all think education can and should. This, I believe, is probably going to be the headline on KWCH tonight. They interviewed me earlier today. But I wanted you all to be aware of it. We're moving down the road now. We're not waiting. We will help write grants. We will help organize. We will help find experts. We have experts. We will do whatever we can do to help this community regain its sense of safety, of a future, and that they are, in fact, us. So just wanted you to be aware. That's where we are. With that, I will stop and be happy to stand for any questions. Please.
Just curious about the enough is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Are the police, Hi, I'm Maria from biology. For the enough is enough, are the campus police and the Wichita police going to be involved?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because from student concerns that I've heard about students who actually live along the fringe of the park, the beginning, I can't remember whether it was the end of spring, but they had some issues with some vandals and some fires and some break-ins. And when they call Wichita police, they're told, call the campus police. And the campus police are like, that's not our area. And that is a concern for me.
We have legal jurisdiction only on the campus. We can chase someone off campus who committed a crime on campus, but we do not have jurisdiction once you leave the campus. I'm going to ask for that to be looked at. I don't know what that exactly means yet, but we will look at other universities. Wayne State in Detroit has done a number of things. UNC Greensboro has done a number of things. Cleveland State has, University of Cincinnati has. There's a lot of schools out there that have been engaged, and we will do what we need to do, including asking legislative assistance and changing the law if that's what it takes for us to look differently at this. But enough's enough. Please.
So sorry, Shanda here, in the open forum, as well as I believe the students that she's talking about as well, those were predominantly international students that are living in the neighborhood, in between WSU and Fairmount Park. Are you going to be sure to have someone from that community on your task force?
We will gladly have anyone on. The first part of the task force I see as experts. And we'll be trying to generate the kind of resources necessary to help. They're going to have to get information from others. That includes students, from community people who live in the area who are not students, from the Wichita Police, from the City of Wichita, from whoever it takes. But I know our police have been in regular contact with Wichita Police. I know that the people of Wichita are concerned about this. I'm not saying we're leading anything, we're not. But we are going to be partners, and we're going to put resources on the table to help. Please. Such a light topic.
This is a new topic.
Okay, good.
So I'm just curious because I see campus visitors, and whoa, it is like crazy. So what's the plan for fall 2015? I mean, can you build a dorm by then?
No.
Okay,
Winnebagos.
I didn't think so.
We're gonna have 40 Winnebagos, and we're gonna drive Little Devils around, so we may need some people with Class C licenses or whatever they are. No, I think what's going to end up happening is that fall of 16 is going to be pressure because the people who don't want to live in Fairmount Towers will still live in Fairmount Towers, and we'll be kind of working that through with housing. The next construction will not be done by the university. We will outsource the construction, though we will maintain the management. So what we're looking to do is to privatize the construction, but it's a residence hall. So we're going to run it with housing, with all the normal services. We're not talking about giving up the services. We're talking about giving up the debt, which I much prefer. And I plan on being here to burn that debt and take 30 years when it runs out. And I'll take my walker out there and take the keys for the building. But we are, what we're going to try to do on most of the things that we build is privatize the construction. Number one, you get it done faster and cheaper. And then secondly, we operate because we know more about how to help students. They know more about how to build fast. So we're going to make sure that we get that done right. Part of why we decided to cut back on the what-if space in the engineering building is there's a possibility of a second building going up that would be mainly private, but we would like to have a wing in it to be able to put students in it. And therefore, it makes no sense to have spent all our money on one building, have a vacant space, when we may actually have use of the money for a wing on another building where we have 100 interns working, for example, which to me is a much better use of space than an indoor practice range for Frisbee.
Good afternoon.
Eric.
Real briefly, I know we're talking a lot about some of the innovation campus and the growth we're making, but where do we stand on some of the renovations with some of the academic and non-academic buildings that have gotten to a point where they probably don't quite meet even the minimum standards for what our students need, both in and outside the classroom?
Right. The academic buildings, a little easier to manage, because assuming that there were not a budget cut this year, the money that we held back to handle a budget cut, we would use to start upgrading some of the academic buildings. But if it's a choice between laying people off and not renovating, I'm going to not renovate. That's pretty straightforward. On the kind of building that you have that is fee-funded, that's a very different thing, and we have to work through that in terms of our overall debt load and then how that plays out. So the answer is very different depending on what kind of building we're talking about. But renovating fee-funded buildings takes additional fees. That's going to take a referendum of the students. And I don't know where that's going to go. As far as the general use funds that we do renovations with, assuming there's no cut, we'll go ahead and move on some of those now. I don't think that's a fair assumption, by the way. I think they're hurting enough for budget. I think there's going to be something, just a matter of what. Y'all are quiet today. I really didn't mean to overwhelm you. I'm sorry with that, but I really, as you can tell, a little bit passionate about this. It's why I got my PhD in the area I got it in, and it is very much something we've got to be part of the solution to this, and we can be. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Those who don't know me, I'm John Tomlin, and I'm just going to put pictures to what Dr. Bardo already talked about. So I'm going to tell you about the Innovation Campus, where we are, and then I'll take any questions you have that I can answer as of today. So the headlines yesterday, or on Tuesday evening, and I was on a plane flying back from D.C., and the headline, I was flying back with Andy Slapp, and we saw the headlines of Innovation Campus moving slower than expected. Somebody didn't give me the memo. I didn't get it. So I don't even know where that is. Actually, we're right on track and even ahead of schedule, and doing things that are far in advance of the schedule. So anyhow, I mean, as Dr. Bardo said, I don't know where that's coming from. But first picture, where we are right now. There is a website, the live cam. You can watch wheat shocker come down. So as you can see, and it's really funny from my view, watching how I always thought that a wrecking ball would be hitting it. Well, then they had these skid steers that drive through these floors and just push things out, and I'm hoping the brakes never fail because the skid steer goes right off. So it's been fun. So watch that. That will continue to come down. This is the picture that Dr. Bardo showed you in August. Okay, so it shows what the vision is. Now, what I want to do today is show you where we are. So this is the complete vision. First building, wheat shocker. Wheat shocker is about right in the, I don't have a little pointer, but right in the parking lot, the north side parking lot of that building. So it faces 17th Street, will be a new presence for the university. That building is right now about 140,000 square feet. And again, as Dr. Bardo said, I mean, we envisioned a fourth floor, third floor building. We elected the third floor building because, again, looking at other things, the campus is moving very rapidly, and we think we can invest that money in other buildings as we go faster on those buildings. So that's what the building looks like, where it's going to be, footprint of it. There will be a parking lot beside of it as well. It will have a maker space of about 15,000 square feet in it. That the maker space will be a place for the community to come where basically innovation ideas. If you have an idea and want to make something, it'll be a place for students and the community to actually innovate. So that's going to be in there. Then I thought I'd take you through a little pictures, and not a lot of people have seen this, but I thought I would show you is outside, what it looks like, but then take you inside. Down the west side walls, and I actually presented in Las Vegas about 3 weeks ago on this, and I have presented to about 600 people, and I was mobbed because this is the future of what people are looking at manufacturing, and we have it, and we have it in this building, and it's already funded, and we got to. One of the first things that happened is just to catch you up on the news, in case you missed it, is President Obama announced 12 communities that they're going to invest in manufacturing. We were one of those, of how the U.S. can do manufacturing differently. Okay, so then the EDA, that was through the EDA. The EDA then gave us a $2 million grant, which we're getting $2 million from other sources, $4 million to look at manufacturing in a different way. And these are the rooms that are going to be built. So going from right to left, the first room is, and those of you who've watched, have you ever watched Star Trek? Holodeck. It's close you're going to get, current day holodeck right here. So you can walk in and put yourself virtually just about anywhere. But we're going to use that to prototype manufacturing of the future. So basically you can make a part in a virtual environment before you actually build the part. So So then as you step right down, next we're going to build the park. And we're going to build it differently than we have done before. We're going to build it with robots. Reverse engineering is basically we can scan just about anything, virtualize how to make it, and then make it. And then we'll have a commercial 3D printer. So everybody knows about 3D printing now. So we'll have a commercial Kinko's 3D printer. Somebody has an idea, they want it printed. What material do you want it out of? Do you want it out of plastic? Do you want it out of titanium? We can print both and print it right there. And we're working with a company called Dassault, linking all these together. So they're a partner with us in here, where we have customer collaboration rooms, reception area, and then they have another section over there. These will be big bay areas. And then we want it to where it inspires innovation. Somebody that you have things working down on the floor, but we want to run tours through there. So we have a whole viewing area at the top. You can walk through and just watch it being built. And then creator space for startups. Somebody has an idea and just where they can create and innovate. Smaller type companies. So we're looking at the big companies all the way down to the small companies. So we call this, and it's already got a tagline on it. It's called the MRAM. It's a multi-robotic advanced manufacturing system. And basically, it pieces these two together. And then you're the first one to see the next one. And this is what it looks like. This is our MRAM system. So this is actually being built, or will be built here very soon. So you can see 6 robots working in unison to print just about any material you want. If I need a wire pulled, the robot goes and grabs a wire, and then 3 arms just pull the wire through. So it's just not building a part, it's manufacturing a part, wiring and everything in one piece. So that's going to be our system that's going to be in that lab. Next building is a partnership building. So what defines a partnership building, and this is where an industry resides. And why do we want an industry to reside with us? Is for, if you look back at our vision statement and mission statement for the university, I pick out 2 words, and 2 words in each. Applied learning and economic driver. That's what this building is. Economic driver, how to grow jobs, and how to get our students applied learning environment. That's what this building is. So the building's already been designed, and hopefully within the next 60 days, I'll be able to announce who's going to be the occupant of this building. But as Dr. Bardo said, we're planning 100 student internships a year in that building. This is what the building looks like. It'll be a 2-story building, about 100,000 square feet. The next one, as Dr. Bardo says, is a residence hall. This is a rendering. We hope in the next 60 days that we'll have a request for quotation to go out to see where we are, pricing-wise. The whole gamut of how many rooms they would propose to build. What's the price range that we're looking at for a student to live in an apartment-type residence hall? So you can see that the way it goes back through the campus, links to, I'll let Elizabeth talk about this, the business school. Here is the proposed business school right here. And then we link them together with, this is the innovation center that we're going to build. And they link together with a crosswalk. Next one that you heard about is mixed use. Again, that's the same RFQ timeline. So I don't know where the slowdown comes from, because I could really use a slowdown. But in the next 60 days, we're going to do this as well. So I mean, and then these are renderings of what we would like it to kind of look like, and then they will propose back to us. So that's where we are. But what we look like is a kind of a lakefront dining area, kind of the waterfront type area, with mixed land use, restaurants below, a little retail below, apartments above, with a hotel as well. So this one, not a lot of people have seen either. So this, you saw the one in August. This is the current day, and it changes daily almost. So this is what it looks like complete build out. It is, if we had it completely populated today, what we know today, this is what it would look like, with retention ponds and large buildings with parking garages as well. So you're going to ask me in 6 months, what's all this digging going on? So I'm going to answer your question before. Evidently, flushing toilets is a big deal. So there's going to be a lot of digging going on. You're going to see a lot of trenches being dug. That's basically getting a sewer system to 17th Street. So I'm answering the question before you ask. That didn't look like a building that John showed us. So there is a sewer system that's got to run basically from here, and this will be an expansion line, but it will run here all the way down the track and then connect to 17th Street and go out. So, any questions? Yes? I think there's plenty of parking on there. I mean, there's a lot of spaces here. All these right here are parking. This parking garage, we envision this potentially to be a company that has 1,000 employees. If 1,000 employees come here and use a couple hundred of our students, I had the architects. I said, okay, well, real simply, throw me surface parking. I'm not a parking garage. We're not New York City. Just throw me. We don't have enough land for 1,000 spaces. With what 1,000 spaces are a lot of cars. And what I didn't realize, I'm getting educated through this process of that I put a hard surface parking in. I got to have a place to put the water because I can't dump it down the drain. So that much hard surface parking, I got to build a pond as well to hold the water that I just displaced. So that's Eric's teaching me as I go along. Any other questions?
Yeah. I was actually going to ask something very similar, and maybe it should have been earlier when you were talking about the residence hall. Would you consider where the students might park in the new residence hall before breaking ground?
That will be in the plan. That'll be part of the RFQ. We'll have a certain amount of parking places that we want with the residence hall.
Would it be on campus or off?
I think we plan on, right, with a fee.
Tentatively. What we're looking at is the possibility of 24-hour-a-day reserved parking, where you would pay, if you were a student and you wanted to park on campus, you would pay the same rate that I pay for my parking. If you are willing to be shuttled in, then you are shuttled in like any other student. But if you want to have the prime parking, then you'll pay for it. And it is, I pay about $600 a year. So, but on the other hand, you have an assigned space, and if someone parks in it, they'll get towed away. So and there are people who will pay that. We know that because there are people lining up to get the private rooms, the private baths in Shocker Hall. So we have to remember that half of the population earns more than the median. And so, with both of these things, we always worry about the folks who have a hard time paying, as we should. But there are a lot of others who don't have a hard time paying, and we need to be able to address their interests as well. So it's both.
Any other questions? Yes.
I'm assuming that the parking that's over in the innovation campus is going to be restricted, right?
It'll be tagged.
Can you ask that again?
I said I'm assuming that the parking in the innovation campus is going to be restricted either with a key card or something to prevent students from trying to park
We'll have a
there,
hang tag.
correct?
A hang tag per lot.
And that's going to work how? Because that
It
doesn't
does
work
work.
now.
I think it's working pretty good right now.
Where do you park?
If you park in a lot that you don't have a hang tag for, you get a ticket, right?
Yeah, but they still park there, and then they don't pay the ticket.
I think they'll pay. Lois, do they pay? They pay. Yeah, Randy.
Wait a minute.
On the municipal side of the sewer system, which you mentioned, are there any changes that need to be taken care of by the city, and how's that going?
Yes, the city's going to be a partner with us on this. I mean, so we're having those conversations as pretty much on a daily basis. I mean, so on the municipal side, they're stepping up and helping as well. The city's a great partner in this.
All right, thank you.
there's Emily. I was looking for you. Parking. Yes, our intention for our new residence hall is to take Fairmont Towers down and to put parking there as well. Pretty much, I mean, there's 1,000 spaces that can fit on that lot. So there are 1,000 spaces that could fit on that lot.
Can you talk a little more about the mixed use and the process for businesses or partners coming in for that?
Okay, that is being developed as part of the RFQ. So I haven't seen what that looks like yet, but we're working with a whole team to develop what that RFQ looks like. But chances are that this whole site will be given to a development firm that we have covenant control over. So, I mean, we will have covenant control over what type of restaurants go in there, you know, what type of apartments, things of that nature. So we'll have control over that. But then you really want to pick a developer that can bring the type of restaurants that we're really interested in too. So that's why we're doing the survey that Dr. Bardo talked about, is what type of restaurants are we looking at, because that really ties to the developer too. Of can they actually bring in, I mean, if you want a cheesecake factory there, chances are that's not going to happen. There's not a development team that's going to be able to deliver that. You want a Buffalo Wild Wings? I think that you have to pick the right developer that can deliver these national type chains if that's what we decide to put there. So those two go hand in hand. Yes, our intention is to develop this one on the south part as a mixed use as well. It may come a little later, but we hope that would be local businesses as well down there.
With the increase in campus visitors coming on, are we looking at some additional visitor parking? And then my second part to that question is, when we're hosting larger events like our senior days, our junior days, is there anything going to be in the plan about reserving specific lots as well?
I don't know if I'm the right Emily. I'm a visionary. Why don't you let Emily see what she has to say?
I mean, the details will all have to be worked out, but it'll all be part of a plan.
Mm-hmm. People talk about parking, and I really don't think we have a parking.
No, I don't think we have an issue.
Yeah.
I just know whenever I'm hosting certain events, I know there are certain lots that I'm not able to reserve, and so it makes it a little bit harder to shuttle them from one location to another, and kind of explaining the details to the students who may not have ever been on our campus before.
Sure.
It gets a little confusing sometimes, but so that's pretty much the basis behind me asking
Sure,
that
that's
question.
actually good input. So, other questions? Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Whoa, good afternoon, everybody. How many of you stayed up and watched the game last night? Raise your hands. All right. Those of you sitting beside those people, poke them because they're probably about ready to take a nap. But what an exciting game, wasn't it? Just wish the 1 point had been in our direction instead of in Utah. I have been asked to talk about our campaign, but before I do, I underestimated the number of you today. So there is a flyer that I just wanted to share with you, some highlights about the WSU Foundation. Some of you are not as aware of our work. So if you didn't get one, share it. If you really want one for yourself, we'd be glad to give it to you. But this just, if you look at the side that says WSU Foundation by the numbers, we did hit the landmark of going over the 250 million mark, almost at 260 million. In the market value of our assets as of June 30th. Very pleased with that number, and pleased that we have such a strong amount of private support from alumni friends, corporations, foundations, and other sources of people who really believe in the mission of this university. But this is a great little tool if you want to seek more information about us. And when I begin to talk about the foundation and our work, we only exist at the WSU Foundation to support the mission of this university. We only exist to support our students and our faculty and our staff. And under President Barto's big vision for this university, we do have aggressive plans for the future. We base everything we do on our foundation core values of integrity, relationships, teamwork, and service. So let's talk about this campaign. Yesterday, I received a call from the Business Journal, and he said, I understand you have a $200 million campaign. And we're in the quiet phase. We're not in the public phase at this point. So I kept trying to say, okay, we are, and we're in our second year, but we have a working goal of $200 million. And this is part of the process. So let me back up. About a year and a half ago, we began talking with the president about a campaign to fulfill a lot of the goals that we need to have for this university. And we hired a consultant. This consultant did an internal assessment, looked at our budget, looked at our staffing, looked at the preparation of our deans. And at that time, we had more interim deans than permanent deans. And were they prepared to do fundraising? That is a big, important portion of the time that deans spend in their respective roles. They looked at everything, and they came back and said, we were very short-staffed to do what we needed to do. On the other hand, we did have the big vision, and a lot of schools have the staff but not the vision. So we had to shore up our staff, shore up our budget. We're still working through that. And then we moved into the process of determining, well, what would be the priorities for this campaign? One of the interesting things was after I talked to the reporter for the Business Journal, as soon as it hits the Business Journal issue, I get a call from the KWCH. Well, I understand. I just read you're doing a $200 million campaign, because the Business Journal didn't say planning, didn't say they have a working goal. It was in the copy, but the headline is WSU is doing a $200 million campaign. So she said, I understand you're doing a $200 million campaign for the Innovation Campus. And I said, no, the campaign is for the entire university. And she said, well, explain that to me. So we had to go back through what the university is and what is the Innovation Campus as a part of the whole university. So we worked through, and then we said each one of our deans and some of our directors, athletic director, director of the Ulrich Museum, and others, came forward, and for 2 days we heard presentations, some of the president's executive team, including Tony and the president. But we sat and we listened to, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do with it? What could you do to improve your program, your college, your museum, your athletic department? And people were realistic, but we still ended up with about $1 billion worth of needs. And the truth is, all of them were really good ideas. We didn't have fluff ideas that came forward. So we had the arduous task then of culling down and saying what are the most immediate priorities that we have to move forward the agenda. And with that, we had to mirror that, tie that to what is the capacity of our donor base. So as we were trying to work through the goals, at the same time our consultants were meeting with prospective donors in very confidential interviews saying, if you were to consider supporting the university, look at these goals and which ones resonate with you and about what gift range. And they came back and they said, we think you can do, we believe you can do $200 million over a 7-year period. Now, it is a comprehensive campaign, which means that all the gifts that come into the university that we have received normally as we've just worked through will be included in this campaign. But let me talk through what will be total. The consultants say that approximately, and this is a consulting firm that work with higher education institutions across the country, you should probably have about 18 to 20% of your overall goal be for facilities. But because of some of the need to play catch up in some important facility issues. We have stretched a little bit beyond their recommendation, and we have about $52 million. So over 25% of our total goal is for facilities. The first element you heard about a little bit a minute ago is the new home for the Barton School of Business. It will be on the Innovation Campus. The total cost is estimated to be about $70 million. Our commitment is to work toward raising $35 million, or half, with the remainder of that to come from other sources. Could be a bond issue, student fees, etc. This will be a 144,000 square foot building. And in addition to that, as Dr. Tomlin said, we will have a 20,000 square foot innovation center tied to the business school building. This will be a building that will be open 24/7, promoting innovation, but tying that to business and, of course, to engineering and all of the other aspects of the innovation campus. What will make this building so unique is, if you've been in Clinton Hall, well, first of all, it won't leak and it won't be crumbling. But what will also make it unique is the creation of student spaces the way students today learn. So a lot of little pod spaces off of classrooms, movable furniture, and just a vast improvement on the learning environment, and bring a lot of the different business school areas all into one building. The Ulrich Museum and the Fine Arts College had a number of very good ideas. What resonated most strongly with us was an ideas lab, because of how it ties with this whole concept of making us an innovation university. So this would be an 8,000 square foot building that would be attached to McKnight Arts Center. Again, similar theme, 24/7. In this particular idea for the building, it would be half dirty and half clean, so that the dirty arts will have a way to make their structures and what they do well, and also the clean space ideas. And this is still an idea being developed, but it came to the campaign a little bit later in the stages, so there's nothing to show you at this time. Believe it or not, Charles Koch Arena was renovated over 10 years ago, and there's a lot of wear and tear. We've already received a wonderful gift to renovate the men's basketball locker room, but we do have just as much wear and tear on all of the locker rooms. There's that plus, I know this will surprise you, but we have 50% more athletes today than we had 10 years ago, mainly in the track and field area. But where we are lacking is good student study space, tutorial space, that whole academic learning experience for our student athletes. In addition, we want to renovate X Stadium. We had started this a while back, and we had made quite a few improvements. We're not through yet. And under Coach Todd Butler, who's doing a fantastic job for us, he has very specific enhancements that he wants to do to X Stadium. There has been some conversation about the skyboxes. I know you've read about that, heard about it. That is still an element of the renovation to Koch Arena that Eric Sexton and his team are trying to work through. The biggest portion of the campaign will be dedicated to student scholarships. Currently of our endowment, and again, as a reminder, the endowment is that permanent portion off of which we pay out to the campus academic units and the scholarship office earnings, but the corpus remains. We have approximately $104 million dedicated for student scholarships, and over the course of this campaign, we want to bring that up to $140 million. We want more endowed scholarships, more current scholarships, meaning money in, money out, $1,000 gift, and they don't want to endow it, $1,000 goes to that student. Heavy emphasis on our honors college and increasing our scholarship support there, and I know you've probably heard, but it is just growing dramatically under Dr. Engber's leadership. And then to have more graduate fellowships and assistantships. And something that Dr. Vizzini came up with, both for faculty and for students, is a Student Professional Development Innovation Fund to continue to look at ways to encourage individuals with their creativity. As you see in this little sheet, we have approximately, I think we have 35 now, endowed professorships and chairs. and we would like to vastly increase that number. We announced a few months ago the creation of the Sam Bloomfield Chair in Innovation Engineering, a wonderful gift from the Bloomfield Foundation. So that will count as the campaign, but we are looking for more gifts of people who truly understand that we are working hard to attract the brightest and the best students, but we also need to retain our great faculty, and we need to be able to recruit faculty, and having more endowed professorships and chairs and fellowships for our faculty will enhance our ability to do that. And then there's this catch-all category of program initiatives. A key element tied to the Innovation Campus is Dr. Roy Spowden, working with our team, is seeking $15 million to fully equip the experiential engineering building and to endow so that he will have an annual income stream to maintain and to add new equipment. And then we're looking at an Honors College Student Leadership Academy and other areas within the university that receive ongoing support. A lot of that will fall into this category here. So where are we to date? As you can see, we are just starting the facilities portion, but let's see, there we go. The grand total is $42.7 million, and that's through October. Just to be very transparent, because there has been some abuses within the Academy of fundraising and a misrepresentation of how funds are raised and used. We are reporting cash and pledges. So if a donor makes a pledge of $5 million, think big, and they give $1 million, that's $1 million in cash, and that's another $4 million in a pledge. So we would count all of that and say we have a $5 million total gift of cash and pledges. We are also counting in the campaign if a donor is going to reach the age of 70 during the course of the campaign and they make a planned gift. So it's a gift that we would receive through their estate plans. We will also count that gift. We are recording it and reporting it completely separately so that all of you all and our faculty and others know that we wouldn't necessarily receive that gift right away. But it is at that level of time frame a gift that will be received in a reasonably nearer than later future. So $42.7 million so far, but as you know, as you can guess, the importance of this campaign is meeting our specific objectives. So if we reach when we reach the $200 million, if we have not raised the money for the business school building, the ideas lab, new faculty, professorships, and chairs, we will not have been successful. So it's not just about reaching the dollar goal, it's about reaching the specific goals that have been identified as university high priorities. So that's where we are to date. So how can you be involved? Some of our largest gifts we've received in recent years have been because of great relationships that individuals have had with faculty and others while they're here. Some of our other gifts, and I'll brag on her in a moment, we received in this total $1 million from the Osher Foundation for our adult reentry scholarships. We would not have received that gift without the hard work of Dr. Susan Norton, who spent a considerable amount of time creating the data that they needed to show that we would be good stewards of their gift ultimately when they gave the full endowment amount. So you can be involved because, first of all, the connections you're making today with the students are the individuals who will be the best donors 20 years from now, 30 years from now. We can't undo damage if a student does not feel they were valued when they were here. Secondly, think of individuals you know that have the capacity to be involved, individuals that you've had connection with over the years. Many of you have worked here 20, 30 years. You know people. We'd be glad to work with you. You don't have to ask. We'd be glad to work with you on that. And third, consider making a gift yourself. In the last couple of years, we've received amazing gifts. Dr. Eric Talati, for example, actually was still teaching as a chemistry faculty member, left his entire estate to support the chemistry department programs and the students. And that is a gift, an ultimate gift of his that we will always cherish. So just some ways that you can be involved. With that, any questions? If you're still awake, I saw some yawning, so I get it. I get it. It's the end of the day, and some of you got to bed about 1. Any questions? One of our former Barton scholars.
You were mentioning about the business school and it having all of its programs under one roof. Would that have any effect on the entrepreneurship being in Devlin Hall? Is that going to be moved in with the business school now? Was that the thought or no?
And Mark Torline is two seats behind you. Definitely there will still be a presence of the Center for Entrepreneurship in Devlin Hall, but we want the center to be tied in the business school building. So there will be office space and other space for the Center for Entrepreneurship in the business school building. Mark, do you want to add to that? John, do you want to add to that?
One thing, sorry. Yeah, I just want one thing real quickly too. Part of it is that the future is going to be in entrepreneurship around engineering. And so what we're looking to do is to get some of the entrepreneurial faculty into the business school and to get the business school next to the engineers so that you get that synergy of people working together to create new. And that's what we're trying to accomplish.
Any other questions? Thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do. I've worked here a long time, and I see so many of you I know and have worked with for years, and I can't overstate how valuable the work you do is, so thank you very much.
I promise I won't sing to you again during this meeting. I did last spring, but that was because Gina made me.
Thank you, Brett. All righty. Well, we've had 3 phenomenal speakers, so I know. But the 4th guy is a cleanup. You have to leave, don't you? No, I know. This is all optional. Well, good afternoon. I'm Tony Vizzini. I'm the Provost and Senior Vice President. And let's just give you a little bit of a cap, because a year ago I stood in front of you and I was Tony Vizzini. I was Vice President for Academic Affairs. At that point in time, I had 2 permanent deans and 6 interim deans. Today I have 2 interim deans and 7 permanent deans. Things have changed. Also, a year ago, we had the Office of Academic Affairs, and we had the Office of Campus Life and University Relations. And we had several components in both of those offices that were working together but working in different divisions. And so, in some sense, what was done was to take student affairs and call it by its rightful name, student affairs. You go to other campuses where Ray Robinson, his division is student affairs, because the focus is on the students. Campus life and university relations is wonderful, but I don't see the word student in there. And though they dealt with student affairs, the students in our community didn't see anything in our titles that said that we were students. And after all, as a university, you would expect something to say student. So student affairs. Firstly titled student engagement, and then Wade said, really, student affairs is where it ought to be. And in so doing, we wanted a way to basically focus on student affairs. As we move forward with the Innovation Campus, university relations becomes a different beast. How others see us, what the story is being told about us, is a full-time division. And thus you bring in Lou to be the Vice President for Strategic Communications, and now we can set the narrative through Lou and his people. So you take university relations out of campus life and university relations, so you could just say campus life, or student affairs. And then you look at the things between student affairs and academic affairs and start drawing the line of, well, okay, so campus life and university relations used to take the student from the moment they would inquire about us, so admissions, financial aid, until they apply, and and they had orientation, so even then they have it. So it's first day of class, they come in with me. And I take them until they cross the stage and commencement. That was academic affairs. And you start scratching your head and going, well, the product life begins when that student really does inquire. And wouldn't it be wise to have the folks who are doing admissions and financial aid and the registrar together working in a collaborative unit? When we went out to do marketing with Royal, it became quite clear then that these different groups between CLUR and academic affairs had to work together and were working together. And so when we start talking about student affairs, being focused on that, was the opportunity to bring admissions and financial aid into academic affairs to work with the registrar and then be a collaborative unit to work towards that. The moment that student becomes apparent to us or to the student that they want to come here, be able to, that's the life cycle beginning point for academic affairs, to bring them into the educational programming. And so that was a very key thing. On the other half, on the exit point, when a student was interested in doing co-op, they went to the co-op office, and that was academic affairs. Now, they look forward to graduation and commencement, and they're going to get a job. Well, that would go to career services in CLUR. We had 2 officers working with both sets of customers, our students and the employers out there for them, based upon, well, is this a co-op, intern, or full-time employment? If co-op, push 1. If full-time employment, push 2. Well, actually, we didn't have 1 phone number. We had 2 phone numbers. We have 2 databases of the students and the employers. We had 2 groups working the same problem. By bringing over career services in with the co-op and then calling it career development, we don't have to have the student understand, is it a co-op or full-time employment? We don't have to have the potential employer be asked that question, well, which do you want? You got 1 number, 978 HIRE, HIRE. It was available. I like that. So if we're talking to folks outside, you got 1 point of entry. For our students, you have 1 point of entry. This makes perfect sense. By putting these 2 groups together, we now are addressing the mission. It's not about if it's a co-op, intern, or employment. It's how we build the relationship or help that relationship with the student and their potential employer, which is what we should be all about. So it helps us to get people who, they were up in Grace Bilkey. You have to either turn to the left or turn to the right to figure out what you're doing. We're looking at that space now to figure out, well, if you're a student, you turn one way, and if you're an employer, you turn the other way. That's a little bit easier than saying, again, co-op, full-time employment, pick your choice. And figuring out, I often went to the wrong way when I was looking for one thing, and if I can't find it, how can I expect students? So that's the differences that we did. Now, which means that student affairs is student affairs. Every bit a division unto itself. The nice thing now is that Wade and I get together a whole lot more often and able to coordinate what student affairs and academic affairs is doing. So that we're not saying, well, you know, there's this vice president, can we figure it out and then we come to terms? It's not that. It's never been that. But now we clearly demonstrate to the community what it's all about, is that there's no way to dissociate the life of a student from the academic programs. We used to think you came to college, here's the academic programming, and your housing, room and board, man, that's something else, totally irrelevant to your academic life. And we know differently. Students are retained not only because of programming, but because of housing, because of food service, because of activities. You can't retain a student who does not wish to be here. So you must provide for an academic setting that campus life. So you've got to coordinate student affairs with academic affairs if your goal is to recruit, retain, and graduate high-quality students, which is our goal. So this helps us to really focus on the student, focus on their academic programming, focus on their quality of life so that we retain them better. It's moving along. It's a piece of cake. No, it's always been fun, but I was asked about the efficiencies. No one has been fired. That's what I think about efficiencies. But we are able to do more because we're not double dutying things. We're not having two things, and as things become together, we'll go from there. So lots of fun and stuff that the other folks have said. I want to put one thing out there because I can. I've got the microphone. One of the things I do want to put out is one of the things that the faculty have been working on this academic year. I put forward to them a charge to come up with a Masters of Design program. And they've actually come back with a Masters of Collaborative Design. And this would be a program at the master's level that does not have a college of ownership, primarily because it's not geared towards a specific college. It's the opportunity to have students who are colliding. We're colliding all over the Innovation Center, Innovation Campus, throughout the university, to have a program where you've got business students and engineers, folks from the fine arts, psychology, communications, health professions, where they have an idea, or others out there do, that they form an enterprise system, a company, that addresses those ideas and creates new knowledge. It's going to be a program where acceptance is based upon a portfolio. So our fine arts folks out there, you understand exactly what we mean when we say a talented individual. May not be shown by academic credentials, but talent is talent. And, you know, I know that my fine arts faculty can say, I know talent when I see it. And I'm hoping that they will be able to educate those of us who rely upon numbers to tell us talent, to be able to say, you know what? I can tell talent too. Not based upon academic credentials, but by your portfolio will gain you admission into this program. And the faculty, which I'm going to try to say mentors, because the word faculty denotes one thing, but mentors would work in this environment to create new ideas. The proposals in its final stage are being written and going forward to the grad council for their input. But my hope is that when the experiential building opens in fall of 16, that we have a corresponding educational program that's called Masters of Collaborative Design, which will demonstrate the innovative capabilities of our faculty. So with that, I'll stand for questions. Uh-oh. Yeah.
So will this new program be an actual degree that students earn? Okay.
Yes, it will be a master's that's earned. What was put forward to the faculty is what are the credentials going to be? What is it going to take to demonstrate proficiency? And they've come up with 4 Ps: a procedure, a patent, a product, and a process, if I haven't already said that. There will be they've also included a thesis option to it. They're seeing things beyond what I had seen, which is wonderful.
So not based on a certain number of credit hours?
There are going to be credit hours required because you have some standard, but they've identified 4 core areas and then programs that are adapted for the individual student, of which participation in an enterprise system is a key component. So you want individuals working in an environment of basically creating ideas or advancing ideas forward. But it's one of those things, is the expectation is that the faculty in this program will be able to determine when that student has reached the proficiency necessary. We're going to ask to see talent will get you in, and then the proficiency will get you out. And so it's not rigid. It's not going to be a bunch of check boxes, but a demonstration.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Vizzini, the past year and a half, the university has spent a lot of time putting energy into its strategic plan. And I know that was a driving force as to potentially a part of how we got to the innovation campus and other aspects. I guess my question is, knowing that I've kind of got a strategic plan in place with my division and department, where is the rest of the university at this point? I haven't heard or seen more things from where the rest of the campus is with, making sure that we're all kind of moving along in the same direction at the same pace so that we can achieve the goals we're looking for.
Right. Cindy Claycomb is actually 1/4 of her time is being spent on putting that plan together in terms of academic affairs. Where they're at right now is determining those metrics, those measurable aspects of what we're trying to achieve. The goals of the university are wonderful. But if I sat you down and said, and how do you measure that? You go, well, there's this, and then maybe this, and maybe this. The question is, okay, do we have data in those areas? And the answer could be yes and no. So what we want to make certain is that, one, we have true measurements against those goals for academic affairs, and the availability of the data for those measurements. That's an easy thing to say. It's much more difficult when you put it to test, and that's where we're at right now is, what are the indicators we like to see? Which ones can we actually can we measure? And more importantly, which ones do we have data for? We could start measuring in some areas, but it's nice to know where we've been in sort of the metrics. So some of them are obvious metrics, but some are not so obvious. And you have to ask the question of, I'll turn to goal number 7, that we've come up with new ways of rewarding individuals and personalized. So how do you measure that? And my statement is, well, if everybody is happy in the room, that would be a good indication that we are properly acknowledging. But that's not a direct measurement. So, but yet we're moving in that direction. So is it the evidence of having these different processes? That's the question. If you were to ask me how far along on goal 7 are we, I have no way of answering that today. Well, it is a quiet bunch. Okay. Thank you very much.
Once again, I want to say thank you to all of our speakers today for taking time out of their schedule and sharing their knowledge with us. In the few minutes that we have left here in the rest of the day, I will attempt to really put you to sleep with the activities that Unclassified Professional Senate have been up to. But before I get to that, let me introduce the senators. These are your colleagues that you get to nominate once a year in the spring, and then you get to vote for. And we're here to serve you. So I like to know who those people are so that I can pester them a little bit more. So, all right, we'll start with the student affairs area. We have Amy Barfield. If you would stand, please. Amy. We have Eric Mackey, who's been asking some great questions. You are standing. Excellent. Not always easy to tell. Well, I understand. We have Shilu Surrender. I'm not sure if I saw her come in. In administration and finance, we have Ellen Abbey, who's been a great help being our secretary and recording all the crazy notes that I like to put out there. In the President and General Counsel's Division, we have Belinda Bishop. Belinda. In Research and Technology Transfer, she wanted me to introduce herself as Dr. Tomlin's Wrangler, as her official title, Gabrielle Dodish. And she's also been a great help. We have, and then from Academic Affairs, I represent you from Academic Affairs. We have Michelle Barger. I saw her here earlier. She's clear in the back there waving at me. Nice to see you, Michelle. We have Kathy Downs. There's Kathy. She's also been a tremendous help from Academic Affairs. We have Mandy Konesi. I'm not sure if she was going to be here. I know I just butchered her name, didn't I? We have Laura Manning. We have Maria Martino. Love having her, working with her. We also have Becky North. Not sure if Becky made it. I know she'd emailed me earlier that she was going to be a little busy. And we have Mark Baccaro. I will announce this again in the spring, but he is our president-elect for next year. So congratulations, or condolences, however you want me to say that. And Tanya Witherspoon. I'm not sure if Tanya was going to be able to make it either. She's actually meeting on a committee that she represents Unclassifieds on right now. So these are all of our senators. We do have a couple of at-large and ex officio members that I want to make sure I recognize. Frankie Brown from Human Resources is part of that group. We have Gina Crabtree, our immediate past president, who's been a great resource and help for me to lean on. We have Heather Perkins, who was running around with the microphone helping us out. And we also have Ricky Ellis. So these are the individuals. They're a great group to work with. I feel very blessed to be able to meet with these guys and torture them with a meeting that could last 2 hours every month. So thank you guys for your service. We really do appreciate it. Here are a couple of important things that we have been working on, and it's not just senators that have been working on this. It is also some of your colleagues that are unclassified professionals that have been on these committees. First one, back when Connie Dietz was president, I believe we did a survey of unclassified professionals, and one of the areas that we recognized where unclassified professionals really wanted some work to be done and were really looking for something better than what we had was evaluations. And so we have a group that is working on revising the policy and procedure 6.07, which is the evaluation policy. And they are taking it very seriously. They're working on it very diligently. They started to have some legislation. They changed direction. Connie came to me and said, Mr. President, what are your directions? And that was really the first time I went, okay. And she said, no, you're in the chair. You tell me what to do. Like, okay. So my direction back to them was, we need a good policy. And after talking it over with President Bardo, it has to be legal and defensible, and it has to make sense. Totally believe that. And so I went back and told them, I said, here's the direction I want to give you. Write a good policy. Make sure it makes sense, and so that 20 years from now when I retire, I can look back and say, I worked with a great group of individuals. What they wrote and what I took to the president and his executive committee and championed is still there, and they did an awesome job, and I was glad to just be a small part of that. And so they are working diligently. We're hoping to have something to come out of that for you in the spring. We also have a group working on the disciplinary action and termination policy 6.12. They've been making some minor revisions to that too. To tie into that, they're also looking at the grievance procedure, which is a little convoluted, I think, to put it mildly. They want to make it a little bit easier, make a little more sense. They're also working with Francisco Gonzalez because he is bringing alternative dispute resolutions, is the term that he used, methodologies to campus. And so we're looking at the ombudsperson too. And the neat thing about these three groups is they understand that all three of these policies and procedures work together. So they're trying to make sure they make sense together so that we're not having something that makes sense on its own but really can't tie into the other ones. And so, like I said earlier, we are working on those. We hope to have something for you in the spring in the general meeting for you guys to look at. Something else that is going to be coming. Human Resources with Wichita State University has contracted with a company called CBiz Human Capital, and we are looking at doing a classification and compensation study. The University of Kansas has utilized this company and has already gone through this process. It was a 2-year process at their campus. It's looking to be a 2-year process at our campus too, but we're not the only ones doing it. Emporia State is doing it, Pittsburgh's doing it, Fort Hays is doing it, Kansas State University would be doing it also, but just recently they've kind of reorganized how they're doing human resources. They've hired a vice president of human capital and broke human resources into their own area. And so with this reorganization, they're looking at, we want to put brakes on it, but a year from now they're looking at doing it also. So all the region's institutions are doing this. So what's the purpose of this? Why are we doing this? Because I know the first time I actually heard, we're going to do a compensation and classification study, I went, whoa, what are you talking about? Why are you guys going to start digging around in this? But after I learned a little bit more and was asked to be one of the stakeholders, along with Kathy Downs, who I rely on tremendously because she's very sharp at getting detail on it, sometimes things that I miss, is they want to bring this company in, and they're very good at doing this. They're going to have us all do, and I want to make sure I get this right, a job analysis questionnaire, or JAQ. You're going to hear that term a lot. And basically, the way it was described, and I love this, it would be like me walking up to Mark at a cocktail party or something and saying, hey, my name's Brett Morrill, you know, what do you do? And he gives me a little one-sentence description of what he does, and I go, oh, well, that's fascinating. So what does that mean? And then he goes into a little more detail. And then I become annoying to him. Really? What do you really do on a day-to-day basis? And we start digging into that. And so there's going to be a form that is going to be developed, and we all have the opportunity, and that's the way I look at it. It's an opportunity for us to explain what we do. Because let's face it, some of us, like myself, our position description is fairly up to date because I've had some movement recently in my job. Other people probably haven't had a PD updated for 5, 10, 15 years. And at the end of the day, these guys really want to know, what do you do? What are you doing right now in your job? And if you don't take this opportunity to fill this out, what's going to happen is we're going to default back to your PD, whether it's right or not. And that's the way I keep looking at this. Opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. So then what are they going to do with it? They're going to take your name off of it. They're going to take your title off of it. And they're going to start looking at them and say, what activities do we, as unclassified professionals, and also as USS employees, do? And they're going to start grouping people. And then they're going to start looking at, what's that called out in the open marketplace, in private industry, by your competitors? And what are they paying on average for that? And they're going to bring back data to the university so that as we start becoming that innovation university, we can have a better idea of what it's going to take to have good quality people here. And so HR then will turn that information over to the president's executive team, and they can then use it to make decisions to help move us forward. So once again, I can't stress it enough. This is a great opportunity. I know it's going to seem a little uncomfortable, but don't fear it. We're not looking at, like we say, getting efficiency into the system so that people are exploring opportunities in the global workforce. That's not the end goal of this, okay? Sorry I used efficiency. I'm never going to use that word again. So, the nice thing about this company is they want to have town hall meetings. We have one arranged on December 15th at 10 a.m. I believe we're looking at doing it in the CAC Theater. This information will be coming out to you soon. But please, if you can, make an effort to attend the meeting. Make an effort to send your employees to the meeting. Give your employees time to fill out the JAQ and take time to fill out the JAQ. I've already had some conversations about this today with some of my staff who were not able to make it, so I was giving them the 5-minute bullet point of what we were doing at this meeting. And I told them, I said, my expectation really is I want you to fill this out. If for some reason we haven't in my area gotten around to revising your PD recently, I really want to know because I think this is a good thing. And so that's the message I'm going to send them, and I hope you send it to them too. With that, that is all I have. I want to thank you all for taking time out of your schedules and coming down here. We appear to have plenty of snacks left, so please take them with you, take them back to the people who couldn't make it, and have a great holiday season. Thank you all for coming.